If we don't act now, everything will disappear. Both worlds will be lost to darkness forever.
The golden sunrise stretched across the water bridge, creating a magical scene as if stepping out of a dream. The shimmering droplets glistened like precious gems, reflecting the soft, gentle light. Lila stood on the bridge, the breeze brushing through her hair, carrying the scent of the forest and the river. Her eyes were fixed on the distant horizon, where sunlight merged with the outline of the world. In her gaze was determination, a powerful belief in the peace she had fought so hard to achieve. But deep in her heart, Lila knew that peace was always fragile, like the still surface of water easily disturbed by a tiny stone. Small cracks began to appear in the relationship between humans and merfolk, like dark clouds obscuring the light. And she sensed that the greatest challenge was still ahead. That night, the sky over Eastbrook became eerily silent, as if nature itself were holding its breath. But then, from the Kalunga River, an extraordinary phenomenon occurred. The once calm water suddenly churned, creating huge waves that crashed violently against the shore, the sound echoing like the roar of a giant beast. From deep within the water, a bright red light flashed, powerful and terrifying, illuminating the entire night. This light was unlike anything Lila had ever seen. It was not warm like the sunlight, but cold and foreboding, as if carrying a warning from another world. The crashing waves mixed with vague sounds, like strange whispers, distant yet distinct. In her small house, Lila suddenly woke up. A cold shiver ran down her spine, making it impossible to ignore. She quickly got out of bed, her bare feet gliding swiftly across the wooden floor. Opening the front door, she gazed toward the Kalunga River. The red light still burned brightly, shining like a fire in the dark night. Malik, her father, was standing on the porch, his eyes fixed on the water. The red light reflected off his worried face, making him appear much older than usual. "Father, you feel it too, don't you?" Lila whispered, her voice trembling, but her eyes never left the strange sight. Malik nodded, his brow furrowed. "Something's wrong, Lila. The river is trying to tell us something, but I don't know what it wants." Lila walked over to her father, her hands gripping his arm. "I feel it. The river is in pain, but why? We've done everything to protect it." Malik looked at his daughter, his eyes full of unease. "Maybe we've missed something. Perhaps the water bridge isn't just a symbol of peace, it's something more." The two of them stood there in silence, listening to the waves crashing like a sorrowful melody. In the distance, Jonas ran toward them, his face also filled with worry. "Lila, Malik, do you see that light? It's not natural at all." "We have to find out what's happening," Lila said, her voice firm, though she couldn't hide the tremor. "But how?" Jonas asked, his eyes full of doubt. Malik took a deep breath, his eyes sharpening. "There's a legend I heard when I was a child. The villagers used to say that the Kalunga River isn't just a river. It's a gateway between two worlds, one of light and one of darkness." Jonas widened his eyes. "You mean that red light comes from the world of darkness?" "Perhaps," Malik replied, his voice thoughtful. "But if that's true, it means the seal has been broken." Lila felt the blood in her veins freeze. If the seal between the two worlds was broken, both humans and merfolk would be in danger. She looked toward the water bridge, where the red light seemed to be concentrating the most. "I have to do something," Lila said, her voice resolute. "No, Lila," Malik protested, his eyes filled with worry. "You've already sacrificed so much. Let Jonas and me handle this." "No, father," Lila interrupted, her gaze full of determination.
This is my responsibility. I created the water bridge. If it's in danger, I can't just stand by and watch."
Jonas placed his hand on her shoulder. "If you decide to do this, I'll go with you. We've faced many hardships together before and we'll do it again." Malik looked at the two young people, his heart swelling with both pride and concern. "If that's the case, be careful. And remember, the greatest strength you have isn't the water bridge, but the courage in your heart. Under the red light, Lila, Jonas C., and Malik paddled a small boat toward the water bridge. The cold wind blew through, carrying with it the mysterious whispers from the heart of the river. Each step, each stroke of the oar felt heavy, as though the space around them was holding them back. When they neared the bridge, the red light suddenly flared up fiercely, lighting up the sky. Lila stepped onto the bridge, her heart filled with fear, yet her resolve unwavering. "Kalunga River!" she shouted, her voice echoing in the night. "Show us! What must we do to protect this peace?" A deep, powerful voice rose from the heart of the river, full of authority and mystery. "Those who dare to break the seal, prepare to face the greatest challenge of your life." The air grew tense, and the red light enveloped Lila, as though it were testing both her courage and the love she had for this world. The next morning, the atmosphere in the small square of Eastbrook Village became heavier than ever before. The usual chirping of birds was eerily silent, as if they sensed something was wrong. The villagers and the inhabitants of the underwater world, the merfolk, gathered around the legendary water bridge. The light from the water reflected off the faces of those present, but instead of the bright, joyful expressions they once had now, there were only worried and skeptical glances. From the middle of the river, Niara, the queen of the merfolk, slowly emerged. Her long, dark hair flowed behind her, with sparkling droplets of water falling from her seaweed gown. But today, her regal presence could not hide the serious look on her face. Lila moved closer to Niara, feeling the unease in the queen's sharp gaze. A gentle breeze blew through, carrying the cold mist from the river. "Niara," Lila spoke, her voice filled with worry. "What is happening to the river? Why is everything like this?" Niara sighed, her gaze drifting far over the river's gently rolling waves. Her voice echoed, as soft yet powerful as the sound of waves lapping at the shore. "The river is crying for help, Lila. An ancient curse has been awakened. This curse was born from the greed and envy of mankind's ancestors, and now, if it is not broken, it will drown both worlds in darkness." Niara's words struck like a great wave against everyone's minds. Silence enveloped the square, broken only by the faint whispering of the river. From the distance, Malik stepped forward, his calloused hand gently placed on Lila's shoulder, as if to lend her strength. "What must we do to break this curse?" he asked, his voice rough yet full of resolve. Niara turned, her eyes locking onto Lila's face. "The only one who can break the curse is Lila," she said, her voice not just heard in the air, but resonating in everyone's minds. "She is the bridge between the two worlds, the one who holds the power of the river and the heart of mankind." All eyes turned toward Lila. She could feel the weight of their expectations, but also a rising fear within herself. "What must I do?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Niara slowly advanced, her eyes deep in thought. "First, we must find the source of the curse. This is no mere story. It has been recorded in the histories of both worlds, a forgotten sin, but never forgiven. The path will not be easy, Lila, but you cannot do this alone." A cold wind suddenly blew, as if signaling the challenges ahead. Malik tightened his grip on Lila's hand, his eyes filled with deep concern. "Lila, you don't have to do this alone. I will always be with you, and so will Jonas." From the crowd, Jonas stepped forward, his face determined. "Lila, you are not just the bridge between two worlds. You are the one who has made us believe in peace. If you go, I will go with you." Niara nodded. "The three of you will need each other on this journey. But remember, the path ahead will not be all light. Greed and envy, the very things that created this curse, still exist. They will test your faith, your love, and your sacrifices." Following Niara's guidance, Lila, Malik, and Jonas began their journey to a place they had only known through legends, the Crying Stone Cave, deep beneath the waters of the Kalunga River. According to the legend, it was the place where the ancestors of both humans and merfolk first met, but also the place where the first betrayal occurred, sparking the curse. They passed through dense forests, crossed icy streams, and finally stood before the mouth of the cave, black as ink. The murmuring of the river echoed from within, like distant whispers. Lila could feel the cold creeping out from inside, seeping into her bones. Leela, Malik's voice was deep and steady. No matter what happens, you must not give up. We will not let you face this alone. Inside the cave, they faced unexpected challenges. Each step seemed to touch upon the memories of the past, images of betrayal, greed, and the pain of both worlds unfolding before them. In a large chamber lit by the glow of the river's light, they found a black gemstone, the vessel containing the curse. But as soon as Lila touched it, the entire cave began to tremble. A voice boomed, powerful and threatening. "Are you ready to give up everything to save this world? Remember, no sacrifice is without pain." Lila looked around, her gaze settling on Malik and Jonas. She knew this choice was not hers alone. "If I must sacrifice, I will," she said, her voice steady. "But I will not let our love and goodness be defeated." She gripped the gemstone tightly, and in that moment, a blinding light engulfed the entire cave. The curse was broken, but the price was steep. One part of Lila's soul was claimed by the river, becoming a part of the water bridge, an eternal symbol of hope and sacrifice. Lila's story ended, but at the same time it marked the beginning of a new legend, the story of the young girl who stood between two worlds to bring light. The faint light of dawn filtered through the thick trees, casting a soft golden hue over the group. Lila stood by the riverbank, her eyes following the rushing waters as if she were trying to listen to the whispers deep within. She knew that to save both worlds, she had to reach the heart of the Kalunga River, the place where no one dared to tread. Alongside her father, Malik, and her companion, Jonas, Lila began a journey they knew would be fraught with danger. No one could say for certain what awaited them ahead, but in Lila's heart, the flame of hope still burned brightly. They crossed the dense forest, walking between towering ancient trees that stretched high into the sky, as if they could touch the heavens. Sunlight barely filtered through the small gaps, casting shimmering beams of light that danced upon the ground. Yet the stillness of the forest did not bring peace. Instead, it carried an odd, unsettling feeling. "Does anyone hear that?" Jonas whispered, gripping a dry branch tightly, using it as a walking stick. "It's just the wind," Malik replied, but the tension in his gaze was clear. They continued walking, but suddenly they found themselves in a strange field of flowers. Each flower was a brilliant colour, like a never-ending tapestry stretched across the land. But when Lila bent down to touch one, she was startled by the sound it made. A whisper, almost like a threat. "Lila," the flower hissed, its voice as cold as frost. "You cannot win. Turn back before it's too late." Jonas stepped back, his face filled with confusion. "These flowers, they're alive and they want us to be afraid." Malik stepped forward, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. "Don't let them shake you. Fear only makes them stronger." Lila nodded, clutching the pearl pendant around her neck as if it were her only source of strength. "We have to keep going," she said, her voice resolute. After leaving the field of flowers, the group came upon a path lined with sharp stones. Each step felt as if it would tear their shoes apart and draw blood from their feet. The jagged ground seemed to stretch endlessly, with no end in sight. "Another trial," Malik said, his eyes showing clear signs of exhaustion. "The river is testing us." Jonas winced as a sharp rock cut through his shoe. "Testing us, or trying to push us to our limit?" But Lila did not stop. "With every step we take, we get closer to hope," she said, her voice ringing out as encouragement for the group. By the time they reached the end of the path, their feet were bloody, but Lila didn't pause to rest. Before them stood the Kalunga River, more majestic than ever, as though it had been waiting for them. Right in the center of the river, a massive water gate rose like a shimmering silver curtain, its light reflecting in rainbow hues across the water. Niara stood there, her long black hair blending with the flowing water around her, her eyes gleaming with seriousness. "Lila," Niara spoke, her voice blending with the sound of crashing waves, echoing as if from the river's very heart. "This gate is a place that no one dares to face. It leads to the heart of the river, the source of all power, but also the place that holds the darkest secrets." "What must I do?" Lila asked, her eyes fixed on the swirling water gate before her. Niara stepped closer to Lila, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Only you can open this gate," she said, her eyes filled with sadness. "But remember, once you step through, you will no longer be the same. The trials inside will not only test your strength, but your heart as well. You must be strong." Malik squeezed Lila's hand, his voice trembling but full of determination. "You don't have to do this alone, Lila. Jonas and I will always be here." Looking at her father and Jonas, Lila felt the strength of their love and unity. She placed her hand on the pearl pendant around her neck, feeling its magical warmth spread throughout her body. "I'm ready," she said, her gaze unwavering. As Lila stepped forward, the water gate began to swirl more violently. The light from the pearl around her neck radiated a powerful beam, merging with the flowing water. In that moment, the gate opened, revealing a path that led down into the heart of the river. A path as dark as night, yet sparkling with the light of distant stars. "Let's go," Lila said, turning to her father and Jonas. The group stepped through the gate, entering a place no one dared to dream of. But little did they know the true trials had only just begun. The water gate closed behind Lila, Malik, and Jonas with a booming sound like distant thunder. They stepped into a completely different world, where everything seemed submerged in water. Yet they did not suffocate. A faint light radiated from the shimmering currents, creating a scene that was both magical and terrifying. At the center of this space, a colossal water sphere hovered, spinning slowly. Inside, a faint figure appeared, a soul shackled by transparent water tendrils. The soul took the form of a man with deep eyes that reflected both sorrow and an unrelenting anger. "Where are we?" Jonas asked quietly, his voice trembling. "This is the heart of the Kalunga River," Lila answered, her eyes never leaving the water sphere and the soul within. Her heart raced as she moved closer. As Lila took another step, the soul inside the sphere suddenly opened its eyes. His gaze was unlike anything she had ever seen, like two endless abysses reflecting painful memories and centuries of accumulated fury. "Who are you?" The soul's voice echoed throughout the space, like the whispers of the swirling water. "Have you come to free me, or to imprison me forever?" Lila froze. She could feel the wave of emotions in his words, not just anger but deep pain. "I am Lila," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I have not come to harm you. I've come to bring peace, not just to the river, but to everyone." The soul laughed, a deep, bitter sound. "Peace? Do you think peace is something easily attained? It was your ancestors' greed and jealousy that made me this way. Do you think a few sweet words can erase it all?" Malik stepped forward, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder as if to offer support. "We do not deny the mistakes of the past," he said, "but we believe the past does not have to determine the future." The soul turned to look at Malik, his eyes flashing with agony. "You don't understand at all. These chains, they not only imprison me, but the soul of the river itself. When your ancestors demanded power from the river, they placed an unbearable burden on me." Jonas glanced around, trying to grasp the meaning of these words. What does he mean? Where does this curse come from? The soul sighed, his gaze softening slightly. Long ago, when humans and the river lived in harmony, your ancestors wanted more. Bountiful harvests, endless power. They forced the river to give everything, until there was nothing left to give. To protect what remained, I was made the gatekeeper, trapped here forever. I tried to maintain balance, but human greed never ended. Lila felt each of his words pierce her heart. She understood that the mistakes of the past had left deep scars, but she also knew that it was her responsibility to heal them. "You are right," Lila said, her voice firm. "The mistakes of the past cannot be forgotten, but I believe that only through love and forgiveness can we fix things. I will not give up, and I will not let this river continue to suffer." The soul looked at her intently, his eyes flickering with a faint spark of hope. "Do you truly believe you have the strength to bear this responsibility? A single mistake, and both worlds will be destroyed." "I don't know if I have enough strength," Lila replied, tears shimmering in her eyes. "But I know I will try my best, for this river, for my family, and for everyone I love." Malik and Jonas stood silently, feeling the fierce determination in Lila. They said nothing, but their eyes spoke volumes. They believed in her, no matter what happened. The soul gazed at the three of them, his eyes filled with a mixture of doubt and hope. "Very well," he said, his voice softer. "If you truly wish to break the curse, you must sacrifice a part of your soul to take my place as the gatekeeper. Are you willing to do so?" The entire space fell silent. Jonas opened his mouth to say something, but Lila raised a hand to signal him to stop. She turned to the soul, her eyes shining with resolve. "I am willing," she said. A powerful light enveloped Lila, lifting her off the ground. The soul inside the water sphere began to fade, and Lila felt a new strength merge into her being. "Lila!" Malik shouted, but he couldn't approach her. "I'm fine, Father." Lila's voice rang out like a soft whisper. "This is what I must do." As the light faded, Lila descended to the ground. She smiled, but her eyes now held a maturity she had never known before. The soul had disappeared, and the chains around the water sphere had vanished with it. "The curse has been broken," she said, her voice calm yet filled with emotion. "The Kalunga River is free, and peace will return." Malik and Jonas rushed to embrace Lila, tears streaming down their faces in relief and joy. The Kalunga River slowly became clearer and more tranquil, as if it had just undergone a purification. The group stepped out of the water gate, where Niara was waiting. "You did it," Niara said, her eyes sparkling with pride. Lila nodded, a gentle smile gracing her lips. "But this is just the beginning. We still have much to do to preserve this peace." The massive water orb shook violently, emitting sparkling rays of light like thousands of stars falling onto the surface of the Kalunga River. The transparent chains began to melt piece by piece, disappearing into the swirling waters. But just as the last strands snapped, an overwhelming surge of power suddenly erupted, spreading like a tsunami, sweeping everything in its path. "Lila!" Malik screamed, his voice tearing through the air. He rushed forward, trying to reach his daughter, but the force was too powerful, pushing both him and Jonas back. They fell to the ground, their eyes filled with helplessness as they watched Lila stand alone in the midst of the energy storm. The light from the orb grew brighter, like a small sun burning at the heart of the river. Lila, with her hair flying in the whirlwind, her legs trembling but still standing strong. She turned to look at her father, her eyes reflecting sadness, but also full of determination. "Dad," she said, her voice deep and warm, rising above the roar of the energy. "I have to do this. If I don't, both worlds will be destroyed." Malik struggled to stand, his eyes red and his voice choked. "You don't need to sacrifice yourself like this. We'll find another way. Lila, please." But Lila shook her head, a faint smile appearing on her tired face. "Dad, sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to let go. I'm not afraid, because I know I'm doing what's right." Jonas, who had always stood by her, suddenly rushed forward. "Lila, if you do this, what will happen to you? You can't face this alone." "Jonas," she said, her gaze gentle but firm. You've always been the best friend I could ask for. But this is my responsibility. I can't run away from it." She turned back to face the spirit, stepping closer to the water orb. The spirit looked at her with eyes that held a mixture of sorrow and respect. "Are you ready to sacrifice yourself to break this curse?" the spirit asked, its voice echoing like the sound of a waterfall. "I'm not just sacrificing myself for the curse," Lila replied, her voice strong but filled with emotion. "I'm doing this for the river, for my village, for the merfolk, and for all the generations to come." "Then prepare yourself," the spirit said, its eyes gleaming with an unusual light. "I will take your energy to break the curse, but this means your soul will be bound to the river forever." Lila nodded without hesitation. She placed her hand on the water orb, feeling an intense heat spreading throughout her body. The light from the orb was so bright that both Malik and Jonas had to shield their eyes. The space around them seemed to ignite, all sounds fading away, leaving only the steady beat of Lila's heart, strong and brave. The beam of light from the orb poured through Lila's body, lifting her off the ground. Her hair flew wildly in the wind, her eyes closed, but her face radiated peace. She felt everything: the pain of the river, the anger of the spirit, and the hopes that everyone had placed in her. "Goodbye, Dad," she whispered, her voice soft like a breeze. "I love you so much." "Leela!" Malik screamed, tears streaming down his face, but he couldn't reach her. The energy storm held him back like an invisible barrier. Jonas knelt down, his face pale, unable to speak. When the light reached its peak, a final burst of radiance exploded, engulfing the entire space. The spirit inside the orb faded, then vanished like smoke. The chains shattered completely, and the ancient curse was lifted. But Lila, she also disappeared, leaving a void that could never be filled. When the light finally dimmed, the Kalunga River became quieter than ever before. The water was so clear that the riverbed could be seen, and the surface reflected the brilliant sunrise. Both Malik and Jonas stood in stunned silence, their eyes filled with sorrow. She saved us," Jonas said, his voice hoarse. Malik didn't respond, but he nodded, his gaze fixed on the river, as though searching for his daughter's silhouette. From deep within the water, a soft light began to shine. A familiar voice echoed, "Dad, Jonas, I'm not gone. I will always be here, a part of this river. Live well, and never forget that I love you all." Malik knelt by the riverbank, tears falling freely. He said nothing, but his hand gently touched the water, as if trying to feel Lila's presence. The villagers and merfolk gathered by the river, witnessing the miraculous change. The Kalunga River had now become a symbol of peace, where both worlds existed in harmony. Leela had sacrificed herself, but her story would live on in the hearts of everyone. "She's a hero," Nyara said, her eyes filled with admiration. "A true bridge isn't built from stone or water, but from love and sacrifice." When the light from the water orb faded, the space became eerily silent. The winds that once howled now only carried the gentle mist of the river. The Kalunga River, which had once been the prison of painful memories and an ancient curse, had now changed. The water became clear, reflecting the soft green light like a promise of rebirth. Lila collapsed to her knees, her body trembling from exhaustion. Her breath was shallow, but her eyes shone with a sense of relief. She knew she had done it. The curse was broken. The river, once a symbol of pain and division, was now a true bridge between two worlds. "Leela!" Malik rushed toward her, his steps faltering on the slippery ground. When he reached her, he knelt down, pulling her into a tight embrace. Tears streamed down his face, each drop falling onto his daughter's trembling shoulders. "You did it, Lila," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "You saved us. Saved both worlds." Lila smiled weakly, resting her head on her father's shoulder. "I couldn't have done this without you, Dad," she whispered, her voice as soft as a passing breeze. "I just did what I had to do." Jonas stood a few steps away, his eyes filled with awe and gratitude. He walked over, sat beside Lila, and took her hand. "You're amazing, Lila," he said, his voice shaking. "I've never met anyone as brave as you." Niara, the mermaid queen, stood not far off, her gaze gentler than ever. Her long, dark hair shimmered in the soft blue light of the river. "Lila," she said, her voice rising like the gentle waves, "you didn't just save the river, you saved my people. We owe you more than words can express." From the river, the whirlpools began to dissipate. Beams of green light spread out, illuminating every corner of the water's surface. The Kalunga River, now reborn, was no longer a place of darkness, but a peaceful stream carrying new life. A few villagers, hearing the strange sounds from the river, began to gather at the shore. When they saw the miraculous change, they stopped, their eyes wide with astonishment. An elderly woman knelt down, her hands clasped in prayer. "The river has come to life," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We've been saved." The merfolk, who had once hidden deep below the water, now rose to the surface. Their eyes reflected surprise and hope. They looked toward Lila, the small girl who had accomplished the impossible. Malik tightened his grip on his daughter, his eyes glowing with pride though tinged with worry. "You've sacrificed so much, Lila. I don't want to lose you." Lila, with her tired eyes but a peaceful expression, smiled gently. "I don't regret it, Dad," she said, her voice steady. "I know I did the right thing. Sometimes, to protect what matters, we have to be willing to sacrifice." Jonas nodded, his eyes soft as he gazed at her. "Lila, you're not just the bridge between two worlds. You're the heart of us. You've proven that love and courage can cross any boundary." Niara stepped forward, her gaze thoughtful. "Lila, what you've done today has not only changed the river, but also changed how we view humanity. From now on, merfolk and humans will no longer be enemies. Together, we will build a better future." As the sun began to rise over the horizon, the Kalunga River sparkled with golden light. The morning rays felt like a new beginning, bright and full of hope. Malik and Jonas helped Lila to her feet, and the three of them looked out at the river, now a symbol of peace and unity. "We did it," Lila said, her voice soft, yet full of satisfaction. "But this is just the beginning. There's still much to be done." Jonas smiled, his eyes shining. "And we'll do it together. With you, nothing is impossible." The villagers and merfolk began to gather by the riverbank, singing and dancing in joy. The conflicts, the pains of the past seemed to vanish in the warm air of unity. The story of Lila and the Kalunga River quickly spread, becoming a legend not only in the village, but beyond its borders. It was said that there was a girl who was willing to sacrifice everything to bring peace to two worlds. Children gathered under the shade of trees, telling each other stories of Lila of the Kalunga River, their eyes bright with inspiration. Her story was not just a legend. It was a reminder that courage and love can change the world. And under the morning sun, as the river glittered like thousands of jewels, people could still feel Lila's presence, a heart that would never stop beating for peace and hope. When Lila, Malik, and Jonas stepped back into the village, a magical sight awaited them. The villagers and merfolk had gathered by the riverbank, their eyes shining with pride and gratitude. Cheers echoed across the sky, the sound of applause blending with the gentle flow of the now peaceful and clear Kalunga River. The water bridge, shimmering under the setting sun, was not just a path connecting two worlds, but also an eternal symbol of hope, courage, and unity. The villagers and merfolk were no longer separate entities. They stood side by side, smiles on their faces, like long-lost friends who had found the connection they had once lost. Lila was welcomed as a hero. Both the villagers and merfolk called her the Girl of Two Worlds, a title that honoured not just her bravery, but also reminded them of her noble mission. Lila had not only broken the curse, but also brought a new belief that love and forgiveness can overcome any barrier, even between humans and mystical creatures. Niara, the mermaid queen, stepped forward, her eyes full of respect. Lila, what you've done has not only changed the river but also changed us. From now on, the two worlds will no longer be enemies. We will build a peaceful future together. Malik placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder, his eyes filled with pride. You did it, Lila. You didn't just save us. You saved the future. Jonas, standing beside them, could not hide his smile. You always surprise me, Lila. You've shown that nothing is impossible if we believe in love and courage. The children of the village gathered under the shade of the trees, listening to the tale of the girl of two worlds with eyes full of inspiration. They whispered to each other about Lila's bravery, about her perilous journey filled with danger, but also hope. Her story became a legend, passed down from generation to generation, not just in the village, but far beyond the borders of the Kalunga River. As night fell, the light from the water bridge still shone brightly, like a lighthouse guiding both the village and the merfolk. But as Lila stood on the bridge, her eyes turned to the distant horizon. A strange feeling crept into her heart. Niara stepped closer, her eyes troubled. The river is at peace, but I sense something isn't over, she whispered. I feel it too, Lila replied, her voice soft but firm. Peace is fragile, Niara. If we don't protect it, the darkness could return at any moment. Malik and Jonas stepped forward, their eyes filled with determination. We've overcome the curse, and we won't let anything break this peace, Jonas said. But is there something we don't know? Malik asked, his eyes filled with concern. Beneath the clear surface of the Kalunga River, a faint light flickered, as though the river was whispering a new secret. Lila looked down, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Perhaps this is just the beginning, she whispered. Has the story of Lila and the Kalunga River touched your heart? If you believe that courage and love can change the world, like and leave a comment below. What do you think lies ahead for Lila in her next journey? What new darkness might be lurking on the horizon? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next part of the story. Join us as we explore more inspiring legends on the African Tales Best channel. Share this video to inspire your friends and family, especially those in the United States, to help preserve the cultural heritage of African Americans. Lila has proven that anyone can be a hero. Now it's your turn. What will you do to build a bridge in your life?